Now, you guys would have heard in that clip the New Mexico officials discussing the gaps in enforcing cannabis laws. Now, they're looking to plug those gaps as regulators look to establish a task force to curb any illegal activity. You can call them the plant count police.
That would empower state cannabis regulators to crack down on criminal pot operations.
Well, technically, that's easy because the only thing you got to do is make sure you got your, well, it depends on how they have it set up. Like here in Missouri, you got your medical program. Medical gets you your home grow gets you whatever the plant count is. So nobody's coming to check that because guess what? They don't care about that right now as long as you're paying for it. So, I mean, that's how we feel about it. Hey, I pay to be the boss. So when you do come in here talking shit, I can tell you exactly what the fuck you're not finna do. What the fuck you not finna do is worry about anything that's in my plant count that I'm supposed to have. Now, if I'm anything over, you can write me a fine. You ain't leaving with nothing. You can just leave me some paperwork. You dig? And I'll come holler at you later. Shout out to that get back game because that's how we get back. Yeah, no, you ain't taking and confiscating nothing. Nathaniel, nada. I'm gonna let you in and let you look around. What do you say? All right, Taylor, I'm gonna let you finish your acceptance speech, but I gotta interrupt you real quick because I'm the big homie. Shout out to the big homie. Having to tell him sometimes, like, nah, this is what's actually legal in this bitch. So you come in, take some pictures, get you some flicks for the gram. You dig? You get you a little story for your timeline and be gone.
In New Mexico is on the table this legislative session, 3 years after recreational sales became legal.
We are doing this for the industry.
The Cannabis Control Division is pushing House Bill 10 that would create a task force of 6 experienced law enforcement officers to put a stop to those defying the Cannabis Regulation Act.
Currently, we only have administrative powers, so we can fine, suspend, revoke licenses. But if we stumble across products or illicit activity, we then are limited in that power.
Currently, the CCD must refer violations of criminal law to local and state law enforcement. The division says that by establishing this task force, they will essentially unburden police.
This would allow us to continue down that path while following due process, going to courts, getting search warrants or injunctions, and then being able to act on those with the orders from those courts.
On Thursday, federal agents raided 2 massive cannabis growing operations in Estancia. The CCD had already revoked their licenses and slapped them with hefty fines, yet they did not have the authority to take further action.
This is a great example of that use of that law enforcement authority that we could use.
The CCD says that by removing the red tape, they could expedite these cases, which would ultimately benefit the local cannabis industry and ensure that consumers have access to safe, federally regulated products.
These illicit, illegal, gray market products, producers, dispensaries, they burden our regulated, good faith, good operators, and it makes them very difficult to operate in a legal space.
This bill would also provide new tools authorizing the CCD to seize and issue administrative holds on cannabis products.
So that task force may be coming soon to New Mexico, and that's something you guys will need to look out for. Now, there are people who argue that instead of being concerned with stuff like that, New Mexico should be concerned with who they're actually granting some of these canna licenses to, because in one situation, they granted a canna license to someone and a company who was under investigation at the federal level. And my mistake, they didn't grant 1 license. In fact, they granted 6 licenses. Check it out.
Ever since New Mexico legalized recreational marijuana, companies have been trying to set up shop here.
And tonight, officials granted 1 cannabis dispensary 6 new licenses, even though the company, its founders, and its affiliates are facing tax liens and an investigation in their own state. Here's John Cardinelli.
That's right. Oregon-based LaModa companies were recently granted licenses to operate dispensaries in these locations throughout New Mexico. This despite their owners and affiliated companies having more than $1 million in tax liens and being linked to a scandal earlier this year that led to the resignation of Oregon's Secretary of State. It has some saying that New Mexico needs to be more thorough in who they give licenses to. To get a license to operate cannabis dispensaries in New Mexico.
Well, damn, they just gave them out to people already in active investigations? Come on now. What type of background check is they doing? They just know the check.